Welcome to this edition of Content Ed. This is the Janno Media newsletter that we try to put out at least once a month, where we get to know our clients on a bit more of a personal level by discovering what they like to consume, their film, TV, audio, book choices. And I'm delighted to be joined this week by Raj Aujla. Did I get that right?
Yeah,
I got it?
You did. Aujla.
Aujla.
It's the but it's fine.
Okay.
It's all good.
Got it.
Never mind.
I mean, we've only been working together for 3 years. It took me this long to get the pronunciation out of you.
Exactly.
So, Raj, you work for Charles Russell Speechlys. Tell us a little bit about who you are and more our relationship and what we're working on together.
How do we know each other? We have gone a lovely journey of our podcast. So we have a brilliant hero campaign around client conversations with our fantastic managing partner and equally brilliant senior partner. So that's Simon Ridpath and Bart Peerless. And I think building on that piece of private capital, we were trying to find a way, an engaging way and a human way, an authentic way of bringing the client voice into the room, in and around the conversation around private capital, because we've got some incredible clients that have got some tricky problems, but also got a lot of wealth as well, in terms of around their issues, around family and their business. And it's always really difficult to bring that conversation to life.
Yeah.
And we thought actually of those clients who would be interested of coming forward to talk about these, either their relationships with the firm or their own personal journey. I mean, we had the pleasure, I think one of our first ones was Dame Stephanie Steve Shirley. Oh, it was absolutely prolific, amazing. I think that was one of our first podcasts that we did together. And if those of you who don't know anything about Steve Shirley, she's amazing and a pioneer, entrepreneur, philanthropist, particularly in the tech and IT space in England, in the last 50 years. But we've also done Alan Shearer, Sir Cameron McIntosh, Sir Martin Smith, so a real mixed bag of people.
We usually ask people for 5 bits of content, but I know you've said that rather than sort of sticking to a rigid list, you're going to talk generally about your love of some bits of content that you're going to bring to the table, particularly audiobooks and newsletters. I know
that's probably like a clash of sort of like new versus old, but I mean, you can't escape audiobooks. I think I spend a lot of my time reading and reviewing stuff as just sort of like a lot of copy, either content or a lot of emails, being in a law firm. And it's actually just really lovely, particularly at the beginning of the day. I have like listening to stories, any type of story, but I think an audio, I'm a big fan of like audio, so even like long books as well, because you can just dip in and out of them when you want to. So when you asked which ones do I really enjoy, I think the standout ones from the last couple of years that I've always actually referred back to selfishly is Scoops. It's behind the scenes of the BBC's most shocking interviews by Sam McAllister, who's an incredible BBC journalist, and you would have, for most people, probably recognise it through the Emily Maitlis Prince Andrew interview that sort of went on Netflix. But before that, Sam, she's like a single parent, single mum, first person to go to university, trained barrister. She's just kick-ass in terms of somebody who is extraordinary in trying to get to the truth of the matter of a story and how to articulate it. I think sometimes, I mean, there is no way I'd compare myself to her, but when you work in PR and you're really trying to scramble for a story in a corporate environment, you kind of feel like you want to find a creative hook, and listening and seeing like the grit and what you have to get to get end result it's really nice to hear. And as somebody who's top of their game, like what tricks that they've used in terms of the relentlessness. And I mean any PR will probably relate to it, but it is a really hard work trying to get stories, either pitches to journalists or convincing a lawyer to sort of give them a bit of a personal anecdote of things that happen in their day to day, not just talk about sort of the legal aspects. So I love the challenges and listening through not just that the Prince Andrew interview, but loads of others like Stormy Daniels, Mel Gregg, Julia Assange. She's had some really cool people that she's tried to get over the line. So yeah, Another one is Prima Facie.
Okay, yeah, tell me.
Which I didn't see that. I didn't see it at the theatre with it. It's Jodie Comer who played the lead criminal defence barrister,
Right.
Tessa. It's written by a lady called Susie Miller, who's an Australian British Aussie Brit playwright. And I mean, at the time, it did so well at the theatre, and it was like you couldn't for love or money, you couldn't get.
I didn't get tickets. Yeah,
completely sold out. And just I think to be able to put it in different guises, so see it at the theatre, have it in an audio. I think it then also did the show on cinemas as well. And now it's going to be, I think it's released now on film.
Okay.
But again, I think there's a lot of a theme. I think I just probably quite like a strong, gritty lady.
Yes.
Just runs through life.
I'm getting that.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Because it's just, I think I mean, to be fair, this firm is full of amazing, incredible women.
Yes, indeed.
It's brilliant, but I think sometimes when you hear another woman's story who's going through it, or even a narrative, it just sort of gives you a bit of a comfort in terms of like your own time of like on the day. So yeah, so that has been, I think, audios. I'm a big fan, big fan.
Yeah. Okay, so there's your 2 audiobooks. You can have a third. We're still in time, or do you want to move on to newsletters? Because you're right. It's an interesting contrast between the audiobooks, relatively, I suppose, in the grand scheme of things, new medium, and then newsletters, which have been around since the internet began.
I mean,
you love them.
Newsletter. I love a newsletter. We actually, a cheap little plug, but we relaunched our brand new our own internal newsletter. We turned it,
Great.
And it's had a massive refresh, and again, in line with the brand refresh that we've had.
Excellent.
It's called In the Know.
Okay.
I'm not going to put it to an acronym because we don't need any more of those. But I just think they're brilliant in terms of condensing loads of information into bite-sized chunks. It's simple, it's easy. There's no excuse for you to be informed. I'm a big fan of a lot of the news, like the major news and like tier 1 newspapers, in terms of when they condense their newsletters and you get a targeted one. Yes. I think the way that the newsletters are now curated, it's not just a listicle. You get a lovely tone of voice, you know who that journalist is, you have a bit of a deep dive into it. Some of my favorite ones I'm going to shout out, this is a mixture. There's Country Life. I'm a huge fan of Country Life newsletter. Oh my gosh, when that comes in, I get excited at the houses that I'll never be able to afford to buy, but they are. It's really cool. And then FT Times, New York Times as well. One that I really love that I actually pay for is one called the Juggernaut. It's all about my sort of South Asian heritage, and about just interesting stories about the South Asian diaspora around the world. And sometimes like mainstream news, you don't get much of that. You have to find it. So it's it's like a bit of a digest that you can just condense and see some really cool stories about South Asians around the world. It's also got a banging playlist. So if I'm needing inspo for music, it's got some good stuff on there as well. So I think it's interesting, actually, like all more analog magazines. I've noticed a bit of a trend of ones that were completely print. So for instance, growing up, I was obsessed with Face magazine, and that is like proper from 1980s original style magazine, and it's like so like it was on the cut. It was just very gritty, completely gritty. Again, created by a journalist, gritty Brit journalist, who. I think he was the editor of Smash Hits. Anyway, but anyway, it's been an interesting transition from the analog print era to how they've interpreted like their content as well. I mean, they've got TikTok, they've got an amazing website, but it's just putting a new spin on what's quite cool, like edgy, to appeal to Gen Z as well. So yeah, no, I find that quite interesting as well.
Thank you very much for sharing your selection of content with us. I'm definitely Scoops is very interesting to me. Yeah, definitely. I will take that. I'll take that recommendation, run with that. Got to wrap it up somehow. I never know how to wrap it up, Raj. Well, maybe that's it. Maybe I just did.
I mean,
there is no. It's so unofficial. That's it. That's literally it.
What do you say? This is done. We're finished. Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed it. I'll see you next time when we do our video series of podcasts. that are coming. You heard it here first, folks. So
Plugging.
you heard it first. Oh, yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you, Raj. Thank you very much.
All right, cheers. Take care, Sassy.